Hey everyone, Mr. Bress here. This is a sort of a recap video, a how-to video on the metric distance. So in class today, we kind of ran out of some time on how to go over the metric distance. Or maybe you're in another one of my classes where you're going over this and you just want to take a look at how to do these problems. So I'm just going to go through that metric distance worksheet. So I'm going to head over here to my iPad and share my screen here. And I've already put this worksheet into Notability. So I'm going to be working off of that in Notability. So hopefully you recognize this worksheet here. So in class, we watched this little clip of this video from Tucker Carlson from Fox News, and he was proclaiming to be an or that we were being us trying to escape the tyranny of the metric system. And one of the things that I thought was kind of funny about that is that that it's not really that hard to understand the metric system. In fact, I personally think it's a little easier to use than the imperial system. And it's one of the reasons why the entire scientific and technical and shipping and everyone has adopted that system worldwide. And I think some of the vitriol, the like arguing and politicizing of it can go away if we just recognize that we can convert back and forth between metric and imperial pretty easily, and that there's not a whole lot to the metric system to learning it. And if you just learn it, then you'll be ready to use it in a whole host of fields. And if someone's telling you that we're feeling the tyranny of it, you can sort of laugh them off and say, come on, you can learn the metric system in a couple hours. So let's go over this worksheet here. There's a couple questions I had here. We won't spend the time. Those are most for your thoughts, so we won't spend them here. So this was first just to kind of see how kind of sometimes cumbersome the imperial system, the system that's typically used in the United States, can be. So how many inches are in a foot? Well, there are 12 inches in a foot. How many feet are in a yard? Oh, okay, we're starting off pretty easy. There are 3 there. How many inches are in a yard? Well, just multiply those together. 36. And I think I showed that on my meter stick here, that this is a meter stick and not a yard stick, because it actually goes up to a little over 39 inches. So if it stopped right here at 36, that would be a yardstick. So whatever, it's back and forth pretty easy. Here's where things get a little complicated. If a bowling pin is 0.42 yards, right? How many inches is that? And I'm like, oh my God. Well, if I knew it was 0.42 meters, I would know that's 42 centimeters. That's super easy to figure out. And we'll see how that is there. But when I get to yards now, now I'm like, okay, 0.42 times 36. Okay, I suppose I could use a calculator to figure that out. And now, if my son is 47 inches tall, how many yards tall is he, right? Because, you know, if you go to Europe or Australia, people will say they're like 1.8 meters, or they're this person's, oh, can you believe they're only like, 1.3 meters tall? And you're like, well, we don't really use that very much in the United States. So if my son is 47 inches tall, how many yards tall is he? Well, that's 47 divided by 36. That is about equal to 1.3. Again, this is getting a little cumbersome. How many feet are in a mile? Well, there are 5,280 feet. I don't know why I remember that in a mile, but now you can see this is like, we got 12, 3, 36, 5,280 as like the sort of the base of the units we use in the imperial system. And it's getting cumbersome. Now, here's one I actually don't really know the answer to exactly. How many yards are in a mile? Well, I would know I would need to do 5,280 divided by 3. Oh, yeah. And I don't know the answer to that. So I would go 5 to 80 divided by 3. Oh, it's 1,700. I think I said it wrong in class. 1,760. I thought it was like, because I know there's about 1,600 meters in a mile because I used to run track. So I think of things in meters. And then we did run the mile. So you can see these are not really easy units to use. Now enter the meter stick. So this stick right here, you can't see all of it here, from there to there, is 1 meter long, right? And 1 meter, we talked a little bit about the history of this, came after the French Revolution, where they were trying to systematize the units of measurements in their country, because there were thousands of different local community units of measurement, and they were trying to sort of say that's like really inefficient if we're trading and trying to talk to each other and conduct science and run a country. We can't have 1,000 different ways of measuring things. Can we get one way to measure it? And what they based a meter off of was the distance from the equator to the North Pole, right? So I drew a little globe here. I made fun of my art skills. Here's the North Pole up here. And if you drew that sort of distance right there, is 10 million meters is what they decided. And that was a measurement at the time. I think we've updated this slightly, but that's pretty close to right. Okay. And then if you look at my meter stick here, there's these numbers, right? They go by tens, are the big numbers, 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way up to 90. And then there's these little 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, and so on. Those represent centimeters. Centimeters. Okay. And centi means 1/100th. It kind of has that 100. So a centipede, they thought, oh, it's got 100 legs, right? How many centimeters are in a meter? There are 100. And if you wanted, you could go through and you could count each one of these here. But my meter stick's kind of already done that for me. There's 10 right there. There's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then 91, 92, 93, all the way up to 99. And my meter stick got a little round. It's an old one, got a little rounded off here, but it goes all the way, would start 100 right there. And in between each centimeter, so I'm going to get you between 40 and 41, you can see all those little hash marks in there, right? These little hash marks, there's between 40 and 41 centimeters, there are 10 little marks, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, well, 9 in between, and then 10 there. So those are millimeters. So millimeters. There are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So what does milli mean? Milli means 1/1000th. That comes up a lot, like a milliliter is 1/1000th of a liter. How many milliliters millimeters are in a meter? Well, there are 1,000 of these. And if you are bored, don't say you're bored at home, because then you can go and count. You could count on a meter stick each one of these. But I'll tell you what, when you get to 1 here, there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and to 10 is 100 millimeters. And if you and this is 10 times that length, so there are 1,000. Kilo means 1,000, not 1/1000th. Kilo means 1,000. So there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer or a kilometer. There are 1,000 grams in a kilogram or a kilogram. So which is longer, a kilometer or a mile? So I always said, I said in class, I ran cross country in high school. So I remembered that we ran 5 kilometers and I knew that was 3.1 miles. Okay. And so from this, I can see that a mile is longer than a kilometer. So 0, what is this? This is, sorry. So if I did this, if I divided both of these by 5, I could see that 1 kilometer equals approximately 0.6 miles. So a mile, if to get to 1 mile, I have to go farther than a kilometer. And some of you I know this, like, so I had a friend, we called him Aussie Steve, he's from Australia, and he would talk about like how he was biking and he was going like 70 down this hill. And I was like, 70? You were going 70 on a bike? But of course, he's from Australia. So he was talking about kilometers. He was going 70 kilometers per hour. So that was about 42 miles per hour. Still pretty fast on a bike, but a little bit more reasonable than 70, right? So I can think that a mile is actually longer. So you have to go more kilometers in an hour to get that same amount of miles. So how many kilometers are in 1 mile? There are approximately 1.6-ish kilometers per mile. And you can get that exact number. Maybe it's 1.67, closer to that. Okay. Then we have a little example of a meter stick here. And we did this thing where I was going to have students make an initial guess about maybe like how long this stapler is. And the idea is that when I was setting this up to be in person, I was building this over the summer to have a fun in-person lab. How about that? I was thinking that you might not know what is a centimeter, what's a millimeter, a meter, like a perspective of it. And then we'd go through this unit and you'd have a better sense of how long distances are. We don't need to do that for right now. Let's just go through this and see if we can get better. This little graphic right here is helpful though. This reminds us that there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter, there are 100 centimeters in a meter, and there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer. And also it's written out for us right there. Okay, so now we need to start converting in metric here. And there are a few things, a few tricks that you can do. Well, there's a couple things here. I know there are how many millimeters in a centimeter? Well, it tells me right here. There are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. How many meters are in a kilometer? Okay, so this is just kind of reminding myself some of these things. Well, there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer. How many centimeters are in a meter? Oh yeah, well, we were just looking at our stick right here, all the way to here. And I remember saying, oh yeah, there are 100 centimeters in a meter. Okay, now we're not at 1. If I have 3 centimeters, well, there were 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So how many millimeters are in 3 centimeters? I can just know that I can just do, well, 1 centimeter is 10, 2 centimeters is 20, 3 centimeters is 30. But I want to show you this one trick really quick. Okay, and this is, it's going to seem ridiculous to do this for this because you might be able to just have done that calculation in your head. But I want to show you this really quick. So let's say we're looking for millimeters. This is called unit cancellation, unit conversion. So first I write, what am I looking for? I'm looking for millimeters. And this is just a reminder for myself. Okay, I'm looking for millimeters. Then the very first thing I write is, what am I given? Well, in this problem, I was given 3 centimeters, okay? So I write 3 centimeters right there. Then the next step I do is I divide that by 1. And that just helps. It's going to help a little later on for just seeing how we do multiplication. And I can divide anything by 1 and I don't change it, right? 37 divided by 1 is 37. 1,700,000 divided by 1 is 1,700,000. I haven't really changed anything, right? Divided by 1. So then the next thing I do is I multiply by a conversion factor. And these up here are my conversion factors. And I have to do one thing first. When I make my conversion factor, I take whatever, let's make this, whatever unit this is, and I put it right there, centimeters, and I take whatever unit that is, and I put it right here, millimeters, and now I remind myself about my conversion factor. Well, there were 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Now, some of you might remember from some algebra or some math that you've had, if there is something up here in the numerator and the same thing down here in the denominator, you can cross them off, kind of like cross multiply. So I cross that off and I cross that off, and I'm left with millimeters, which is the unit that I wanted. So I know I'm right. Now, if for those of you that remember multiplying fractions, you multiply the top, the numerator, and you multiply across the denominators. So 3 times 10 is 30. And the units we had was millimeters. And 1 times 1 is 1. So anything over 1 is itself. So this is 30 millimeters, which is what we figured out right here. So you can do that for some of these and practice that here. So for instance, I am going to erase this up here. I'm gonna do one more and then I might just do the rest in my head. But I do think that this is a useful thing to watch, and you can always skip ahead in the video if you don't want to see this. So here's another example right here. How many meters are in 4 kilometers? Well, I know off the top of my head that's 4,000, right? But let's just, for the sake of this, let's do this. So I'm looking for meters. I'm given 4 kilometers. I put that over 1. I multiply by, now kilometers goes down here, meters goes on the top, and I go over to my conversion here. There are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. Kilometers cancel. I multiply across and I get, and the only thing I'm left with is meters. I have 4,000 meters over 1, and that is just 4,000 meters. So this is 4,000. How many millimeters in 5 centimeters? Well, I know there's 10 millimeters per 1 centimeter. So there are 50 here. How many centimeters in 2 meters? Well, I know there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So there are 200 centimeters in 2 meters. How many kilometers is 2,000 meters? That is 2 kilometers. There are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So my bet is there are 600 centimeters in 6 meters. There are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So there must be 80 millimeters in 8 centimeters. And here we got to do there are 100 centimeters in a meter. If I have 800 centimeters, I have 8 meters. And if I have reversing this, instead of 8 meters gives me 800 centimeters, 7 meters gives me 700 centimeters. Okay. So now, that's just kind of moving tens and hundreds. And so it just kind of takes a little bit of practice. And once you've done it, it probably will come pretty quick. So now here I'm trying to say we need to circle the measurement that is the largest. And I would say the best thing to do is to convert all of these into meters and see which one is bigger. So for instance, in this one, I have 1 meter. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. And 1 centimeter is, well, there are 100 centimeters in a meter. So I put a little decimal on the right side of the 1, and then I move it 1. Oops, shoot. I move it 1, 2 places, and I put a little 0 there and a 0 in front. Maybe some of you remember that from, maybe some of you learned that at some place. Sorry. So this is 0.01 meters. 1 centimeter is 0.01 meters. So kilometers, that 1 kilometer is the biggest. So now we have right here, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. Well, right here we have 2,000 meters. And now I have centimeters here. Remember, there's 100 centimeters in a meter. So I can take 1, 2, and I put a little dot right there. So 3,000 centimeters is 30 meters. So right here, 2,000 meters is the biggest. Okay. Here we have 2 meters, 400 centimeters. So if there's 100 centimeters, so I could do the same thing here. If I want to do this into meters, I move the decimal once, twice, and this is equal to 4 meters. And with millimeters to get to meters, I need to move the decimal place. Since there are 1,000 millimeters in a meter, I need to move the decimal place 3 spots. So I go 1, 2, 3, put it right there, put a 0 in front. This is equal to 0.7 meters. So I know from this, 2 meters, 4 meters, 0.7 meters, I know that 400 centimeters is the largest. Okay, up here, 5 kilometers is 5,000 meters. Right down here, I have this is 4,000 meters. I'm just rewriting that. And now I don't know about this centimeters. So it looks like that's 6,000 centimeters. So I need to move the decimal place 1, 2, and this is equal to 60 meters. So of these, I know that 5 kilometers is the largest of those. Okay. We do kind of the same thing here where you can but you don't have to convert everything to meters. You can convert it into the closest unit here. So 5, well, let's go to number 2 here. So 1 kilometer, 1,000 meters. Well, 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So I know those are equal. 5 centimeters and 50 millimeters. So there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. So I move this 1 spot, and this is equal to 5 centimeters. So those are equal. I know that 3 kilometers is 3,000 meters. So 3 kilometers is larger than 300 meters. So I make that arrow that way. The open arrow faces the larger one. I can't remember the mnemonic that I learned, something about the alligator, but that was always confusing to me in school because I felt like I should eat the smaller one. But this is just the way it goes. It's something to less than and greater than, just need to remember it, that the open opens greater towards the greater. Okay, 7 meters. Well, this is 500 centimeters is 1, 2 is 5 meters. So 7 meters is bigger than 500 centimeters. millimeters to centimeters, there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. So I move this 1, and this is equal to 8 centimeters. So 80 millimeters is bigger than 6 centimeters. We do this again, millimeters. I move this over so that this is equal to 3 centimeters. 30 millimeters is the same thing as 3 centimeters. And now I move this 1, 2 to get 8 meters. So 800 centimeters. 8, this is 100 centimeters. So 8 of these sticks is more than 7. So 800 centimeters is bigger than 7 meters. And here again, I move centimeters to meters. 1, 2. This is equal to 0.4 meters. So 4 meters is larger than 40 centimeters because 4 meters is 4 of these sticks, and 40 centimeters only gets me this much of the stick right here, right? Okay, and this is going to be really close because 5 kilometers is 5,000 meters. So that's just bigger than 4,900 meters. Okay. So now we need to do a little bit of conversion between inches, centimeter, feet, yards, right? So here's a few things to know. A meter is just bigger than a yard, right? So a meter is just bigger than a yard. They're really close to the same. This stick is 39 inches. So it's a 1 yard plus 3 inches, and it's equal to 1 meter. So this meter is just bigger than a yard. The other thing to know is that, and I should get the exact, I think it's 2.54, but you might need to correct me on that. Oh, maybe I have this conversion down here. How many inches are in a centimeter? So 1 centimeter is equal to 0.3937 inches. So if I take 1 divided by 0.3937 should be about 2.54. Yes. So 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So if I look at this side here, and I have from 2 to 3, that's 1 inch. And if I flip that same over, my fingers are like here and here. There should be about 2.5 centimeters in that 1 inch. So we can use that to help us kind of sort of figure this out. Oh, and remember the one other thing was that, how is this? Oh yeah, 1 kilometer equals 0.6 miles. So a mile is bigger than a kilometer, right? So because if I had 1 mile, I would need more than 1 kilometer to fit into that mile. Okay, so can we figure this out? So I have 2 meters, 2 centimeters. Well, that's not right. 2 meters, 2 of these sticks, there's way more than 2 inches in there. And 2 feet is not even isn't even the whole stick here, 24 inches. So 2 meters is going to be my answer there. Here, I got kilometers, centimeters, miles, and inches. Well, centimeters and inches are right out. Now, what's bigger, 4 miles or 4 kilometers? 4 kilometers, if I look up to here, multiply this by 4, 4 kilometers is only 2.4 miles. So 4 miles is bigger than 4 kilometers. Okay, now I really got to do, oh my gosh, how much calculations am I giving myself here, right? And we got still more down here. Okay, so circle the measurements that is the longest. Well, 1,000 meters is only 1 kilometer. 1,000 inches is a lot smaller than 1,000 meters. So that's right out. Now, what's bigger, 10 kilometers or 30 miles, right? 10 kilometers is only 6 miles. That's actually what the cross country they race in college. So 30 miles is my longest one here. And maybe I'll just go through these quickly here. 10 kilometers is going to be your answer there. Might need to do some thinking here. Well, I know 500 inches is not going to be it because inches are smaller than meters. Feet, there are more than 3 feet in 1 meter, so that's not going to be right. And I have 500 meters, and with my centimeters, 100,000 centimeters, there are 100 centimeters in a meter. This is 1,000 meters, so 100,000 centimeters is going to be the longest. Okay, so now I have yards, meters, I got my lights on here. I'm really going long here. So now I have yards and meters. Remember, kind of my big stick here, and centimeters and inches. So first of all, I know 8 yards cannot be bigger than 8 meters. 8 meters, a meter is bigger than a yard. So I know that's out. Now, 80 inches. 80 inches. Well, this whole meter stick is about 39 inches. So that's two of these gets me to 78 inches. So this is about equal to 2 meters. So that's not bigger than 8. So that's right out. And 80 centimeters only gets me about to here on the stick. So not even 1 whole meter. So I know that 8 meters has to be the biggest. And finally, I got a tough one here. Oh man, this is hard. So 750 centimeters is 7.5 meters, right? Because if this was 700 centimeters, that would be 7 meters, but it's 750. So that's 7.5 meters. Well, I know that that's bigger than 7.5 is bigger than 3. 4 yards, so a meter is bigger than a yard. So 7.5 meters has to be bigger than 4 yards. And now this 250 inches. So 250 inches. So there are, oh man, this is hard, right? I hate inches. I hate dealing with inches. So let's figure this out. So there are 12 inches in a, what do I even want to do here? So there are oh, I know what we can do. What we want to do is we want to figure out, let's get this in meters. We want meters. We're given 250 inches over 1. Now I'm going to do a little trick here. I know there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. 1 inch. So inches cross out. And I know there are in 1 meter, there are 100 centimeters. So if you don't get this yet, don't worry about it. It's going to, you'll get it in chemistry. So now I can multiply across, and what I get is 250 times 2.54 is 635 divided by 100. So 1, 2. This is 250 inches, man, I gave a tough one here, is 6.35 meters. So that is not it. So 750 centimeters is bigger than 250 inches. There might be a more elegant way to do that, but that gets you the right answer. And more of this is just recognizing these sort of different sizes. I don't think I'll give one that much calculation on a test. Okay, now these are fun just to get a sense of how big things are, okay? And I'm not gonna go through all of this a ton, but this is a Ferris wheel that people would ride on, right? Way up in the sky. It's definitely not 30 centimeters. It's definitely not 50 kilometers. That's like from here to like from Verona to like Dodgeville and back, right? 5 meters is about 15 feet. It's a little bit higher than my ceiling here, but that's not really a super fun, maybe for like a super kid Ferris wheel, but maybe 23 meters. Maybe it goes, you know, about 70 feet in the air, about 7 stories. Yeah, that would be a pretty fun Ferris wheel. So 23 meters. My little, like a little screw like this, it's probably a little bit bigger than an inch. And so 3 centimeters is a little bit bigger than an inch. Now, like a can of beans, right? You know, like a typical can that you would have in there, that's maybe 120 centimeters. It's not a meter. It's not this big. It's not 2 meters. And it's certainly not 2 kilometers, right? Over a mile. So 10 centimeters seems to be the right answer there. A little flash drive. I don't know if you've all used these before. That's just pretty hard. I don't even know. Why are they all so close, right? 6 centimeters, it's probably right. 15 centimeters would be like this big here. That's like a pretty big flash drive, right? And anything bigger than that, 15 centimeters, no, it's got to be 6 centimeters. All right. A horse. Some of you ride horses all the time, and you know that a horse, if I stand up straight, I'm almost 2 meters tall. I like to say I'm 6 feet tall, but I'm probably a little shorter than that, actually. And a horse is maybe a little taller than me, so 2 meters. And then a typical chair that you'd sit in. Well, this is a weird one. 1 meter and 120 centimeters. So 1 meter would be the height of that chair, and 120, a little bit bigger. I don't know the right answer there. I'm going to say it's probably somewhere, both of those could be right. Now, an 11-story building. Okay. Well, 1 meter is this right here. So an 11-story building is bigger than that. 11-story building is not quite 3 kilometers, not you know, a mile and a half. That's a little too big. 335 centimeters is 3.3 meters. An 11-story building is bigger than 3 of these meter sticks. So about 30 meters, right? Each story is about 10 feet. Each story is about 3-ish meters. So yeah, that works pretty well. Okay, now a typical key. Oh, I can probably get out a key and I can actually do this measurement right here. So here's a key. Here's my meter stick. And my key here, oh, look at that. It's maybe 5.5, not quite 6 centimeters. So I got a great answer right here. 5 centimeters. And a typical sheet of notebook paper, this is maybe a little bit, oh, here we go. I got a little piece of paper. Actually, I got a booklet right here. You know, this is about the size of a notebook paper. My other paper here is a little bit smaller. So we'll go with this. It's pretty typical, and I'll measure it here. And it looks to me it's about 27 centimeters. Yeah, okay, so maybe that book is a slightly bigger. So I'm gonna go with 25 centimeters. All right, So I hope going through this, the hope is that you recognize a couple things. One is some familiarity of just like how big sort of a centimeter is relative to a meter and a kilometer, to be able to make that estimate. And the other thing is to recognize that in the metric system, moving from meters to centimeters to millimeters, you're just moving decimal places because everything's in this base 10. It's really easy to use. And I think this would be a lot more challenging if we were using the imperial system, where we would have to start using things in 12s and 3s and 36 and 5,280 and 1,760. If I had given you that same kind of problem with the imperial, it would be a lot messier. So that's all I have for this worksheet. I hope that just helps you get a little bit more familiarization with the metric distance, and good luck with that. And I will talk to you all soon.